Hi everybody, welcome back to SAM1 Bird Products. Let's get stuck in to anthracite. So this is probably the episode where I've had the most messages about, had the most inquiries. We want to talk about anthracites, we want to know what they are, we want to know how we can breed them. Well, hopefully I can give you the answers. So with the anthracite variety, these guys behind me are in the double factor form. So these are the dark ones, these are the ones that should be shown. These are the variety that we call the anthracite. Whereas they can obviously then come in single factor with it being a dominant gene. But the single factors will look like a cobalt, a violet, a mauve. There is no difference in how a single factor anthracite looks compared to just a normal cobalt, violet, mauve that is nothing to do with anthracite. So this proves and this shows that anthracites are a blue. Now when I say that, it's because there are a lot of birds out there that get shown as a grey, and a grey is a factor. Yes, it's a blue series bird. A normal grey we would say is a blue series bird, but it is a grey, which is a factor, which we then would show as a different colour. Whereas with the anthracites, they are the darkest blue we can get, and these are shown in the rare class. So within the rares, they should only be anthracite, slate, saddlebacks, German fellows, English fellows, rainbows. That's it. No greys, no anything else. These are the real deal. Okay, so these are two normal anthracites. I have got an opaline anthracite, and there is also a grey wing anthracite, which was a bit of a surprise. That has popped out. We did have a couple more, but we've currently in the bird room only got the one. But if you can see, these are super dark. Yes, okay, I can see where people are coming from. The misunderstanding, they look a bit like a grey because obviously it's a very dark colour, but it is not a grey. If you look at the cheek patches, you can see that. Obviously the body colour, and then the overall presence in the cage. They are so dark, they're not like anything else. Hopefully within the video you'll see the other clips where I've shown the different colours. This is to try and distinguish, to show what the differences are. Now with anthracites, there is the confusion, like I say, of, are they a grey, are they a blue, what are they? Well, the answer is simple, that they are the darkest blue we can get. And if you add the grey factor to them, you will end up breeding greys. It's as simple as that. You are going to breed the greys. So you can breed a grey anthracite because with this bird you could add that grey factor to the dark blue bird. There's no issue with that, that's fine. But theoretically, and this is where being a purist and someone that really cares about the show system and people winning correctly, a grey anthracite needs to actually go in the grey class because it's got that grey factor in it. There are some birds out there that have been shown over the years that are a bit conflicting. They've been bred the grey way, but because they've got that dark factor in them, you are seeing what looks like an anthracite, but actually it's a grey anthracite. So again, from really a true breeding record, it's come from the greys, and also then from a true showing perspective, it's not in the right class, and this is where it gets a bit frustrating. And I don't mean this in a rude way, but there are judges that put up at these so-called anthracites that are actually greys, and what it is that it's a lack of experience. So that's not being rude, that's a fact. It's a lack of experience in the respect that they don't breed them, so they're not sure how they work, they're not sure some of the characteristics to look for. And also, you don't see many at shows, so it's not like you can take one from one cage and go and show it against another, and is that one then, or is it not? Has it got the same features? This is where, unfortunately, a lot of these rares are not being shown. And then the few that do get shown, if they get beaten by a grey, they're going to get put off by being shown, because they said, oh, well, I'm being beat by the wrong bird in this CC. Why do I bother bringing out my English fallow, my straight, my saddleback, whatever? So this is the frustrating part. And that's not being rude towards judges, it's just physically a lack of experience. They don't breed them, they don't keep them, they don't see them at shows. Obviously, we've got the colour standards, but obviously photos don't always look as true as seeing them in the flesh. And this is why when people visit, I always show different things, different factors. You can see them in the flesh, you can see they're different off these guns. You know, and this is where it's nice to see them, because hopefully people can learn. Now, something I do want to talk about, that is the breeding part of it. So with them being a double factor, if I was to pair this to a sky blue, which is a light factor, a cobalt, a violet, a mauve, that's not to do with anthracite, you're going to get what we then call a single factor, which would show no difference between a normal cobalt, a normal violet, a normal mauve. They will just look like as they are. But pairing them back to a double factor anthracite, or pairing them back to another single factor, gives you the opportunity of then breeding the dark factor one, the double factor, the anthracite as we actually call it. Now, my little tip is trying to keep them as dark as possible, trying to keep the level of birds that you add as dark as possible. So a mauve is a good pairing, because then that's a double factor dark blue on a different path. So that's where you would pair two cobalts together and 25% come out as a mauve. So this is the same idea, but on a different colour pattern. It's got a different genetic path. So cobalts and violets and mauves can all be used, but they are different. So using a mauve, that's helpful, because that's a double dark anyway. Using violets is really good, and that's my tip, that's my secret. It is no secret, but that's the secret to it. I would suggest using normal violets where you can, keeping that violet factor there. Some of these birds, when you see them in the flesh, they're dark obviously, but they've got that lovely purple glow to them. That's coming from you adding the violet factor, which is another factor. So this is a pairing that could be made. I'm not going to. I've actually got a different bird each for these lined up, but this is a pair that could be made. This is a normal violet cock, which has come via the anthracite route. Its mother is a double factor anthracite opaline hen, and the father was a normal violet. Now the normal violet was actually an outcross. I'm trying to add as many violets and mauves, the odd cobalt if I have to, into the anthracites as outcrosses. Get the productivity there, get the bloodline going, try and get some quality into them. The original anthracites I started with were poor quality, size-wise, facial-wise, feather-wise. They weren't great, but at least they were the right colour and they were bred the right way. There was a few little bits in there that were a bit frustrating. The original ones all came from anthracite to Eno pairings, so albinos and yellow-faced albinos were being used, which then I wanted to actually get that factor back out. I don't want Enos in them personally. With them being a blue, I want to keep them that way. With my albinos, I'll use greys and opaline greys, etc. I don't want to go down this route. So this could be a pairing, like I say. They're actually half brother, half sister. The double factor anthracite was bred last season off the anthracite opaline hen. So same mother, different fathers altogether, and that could be a pairing. It is a little bit close in one way, but half brother, half sister does work. This is where you're, applying the one side of the family using outcrosses from the other. But percentage-wise, I would get 50-50 if I was to pair these together. So 50% would look like the mother, there would be the double factor dark, and 50% would be single factors. But the single factors could be cobalt, violet, mauve, depending on obviously the background of these birds, depends on what then pops back out again. But this would and could be a good pairing. But I do actually, with what else I've bred, I do have some other birds lined up for these. But that just shows you the type of pairing that I like to use. Same as a lot of varieties out there, if you were to go the variety to the variety, so if I was to pair two anthracites together, two dark ones, more than likely I'm not going to improve very fast because you're using the colour more than the quality. So it's nice to try and add some feather, some shape, some size via the outcrosses or via the birds like this cockbird that have been bred from an outcross. So that is the type of pairing I would like to do, and I like to see to be done. Now, hopefully, like I say, this is the pair that were in the cage a moment ago. You can see a clear difference there. Again, cameras don't always pick them up like the naked eye would, but that is a stunning violet, a real piercing purple bird, which is attractive to anybody and attractive in any variety actually. So that's a normal violet, and that's a normal double factor anthracite. So you can see the difference in colour. Obviously they are different, but people do say, oh, is it not just a dark violet? Or no, they're completely different. So that hopefully shows you what I'm talking about there.
Okay, so this cockbird is just a normal grey in the single factor form. And here is the same cockbird on the right hand side now in the cage, with a double factor anthracite cock on the left. This hen is a normal grey, but she is a blue factor grey, and you can see the difference then. She's got a blue tinge to the grey coloration. And again, here she is on the right hand side now with a double factor anthracite cock on the left. So that shows that comparison. This cockbird here is a normal grey, but he's a dark factor. So he's got like a deep cobalty coloured tinge to his coloration. And again, here you can now see him next to a double factor anthracite hen. So you can see how dark the anthracite is against the dark factor grey. This hen is a double factor grey, so she is very dark in body colour and her cheek patches are then darker. So this is the bird, now you see her next to a double factor anthracite. This is the bird that could, be confused for an anthracite, but there is still a clear difference. The anthracite is on the left, far darker, and the cheek patches are darker. This cockbird here is a mauve cock. These are another bird that get confused with anthracites because they're very dark, but again, when you see them in comparison, they've got more of a purple tinge to the feathering compared to the darkness that an anthracite has in the body colour. These were the two hens that I mentioned earlier. The one on the left is a grey wing, and the one on the right is an opaline.
So something I'll just finish up on this variety and this topic. It is a blue bird, and it is in its double factor form that we show them as, because that's the dark one. That's what we call an anthracite. If I was to show you a single factor one that I haven't told you is a single factor, you would just say, oh, it's a cobalt, it's a violet, it's a mauve. There is no distinguishing differences, no distinguishing the colour. You just wouldn't know. So with the actual, difference, there is none. Whereas the actual double factor is a different bird, it's a different colour, it's different to grey. Grey is a factor, so then that grey factored bird can then be affected by other colours, which I've put in the clips here. You can get a normal grey, as we'd call it. You can get the blue greys, which are bred via people pairing like sky blue to grey and stuff. They have this blue sheen. You've then also got a dark factor blue. Now these dark factor grey, the dark factor greys are then bred via dark factor blues, such as cobalt. So they have this really royal blue sheen to them. And that can vary again depending on what you've actually paired in. Was it a cobalt? Was it a violet? Violet greys, which I haven't got one to show you at the moment, they are very much like the dark factor grey bird. They've got that bluey sheen, but it is normally more of a purpley, pinky glow to the feathering. That is a bit different. So this is where, again, that's another shade, another type of the colour. And with the final one, in my opinion, then is a double factor grey. That's where you've paired two greys together, or a grey to a grey green, etc. You're doubling up on the grey factor. That gives you a really solid coloured grey. The cheek patch changes slightly. The body colour obviously is very dark, and these do cause the confusion. These are the ones that people are then showing as an anthracite, and they're actually not anthracite. These are a double factor grey. Now that double factor grey, if you were to pair it to say a sky blue as an example, or a light green, you're only going to breed grey factor birds. So you would breed greys from the grey to the sky blue, or greys and grey greens when you pair it to a light green. That then proves and shows that it is a double factor grey. This again is the frustrating part. They're being shown, they're being seen at shows. People think, oh well, I've got one of them. I could maybe show it, but it's ruining things, unfortunately, for specialist breeders or breeders that have bred a few nice slates, a few nice fallows, maybe a nice saddleback pops out, maybe a nice rainbow's works on their project, and they're proud of that. They're not a best in show bird, obviously. A lot of these rares are nowhere near yet quality wise to be winning major awards, but they're good for what they are. And then you put a half decent double factor grey in, the half decent bird is going to beat the rares. But the half decent grey in the grey class would probably never win. So this is where it's frustrating. More maybe needs to be done. Maybe me having the colours and breeding the different varieties and being very passionate about them, maybe I need to do more. I'm trying to put as much as I can on the internet when people visit. Even if they don't like these colours, I show them and I say, look, have a look at this, have a look at that. Please, get stuck in. Let's see the differences. Let's talk about the differences. So then the more people know, the more awareness, the more people know about these varieties, or at least are aware of what they could be looking at shows or when they come to judge. So I'm trying to do my bit. Maybe I need to do more. I don't know what more I can do, but maybe I need to do more. And I hope that this video has been some help to those that do breed them or want to breed them. And also maybe to the judges out there. The judges have got lots of experience. They've been judging for a long time. They've been breeding and keeping birds for a long time. But like I say, it then does actually come down to a lack of experience with that variety. Not as a judge, not as a breeder, as an actual variety. They're not aware of them. They haven't seen them, or they see them just in the colour standards, or they've seen one online. Come and see them in the flesh. See the difference. Let's talk about the differences. So I'm hoping this has been good. I am going to touch on some more varieties and have a bit of fun and let's cause a bit of havoc or whatever. But this is the anthracite. Let's get this drilled in. Let's get people knowing about them and let's talk about them and let's push them as a variety. They're very beautiful. They can look great in other varieties as well. The combinations with a spangle maybe, with a pied. If you want to breed them, get some, have a go with them. But do your research, speak to someone like myself who knows about them, someone who breeds them, and let's get more of them out there. Okay, so that's the end of this episode. If you liked it, please give a like on the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed already, just click the subscribe button. It will show you then basically what other videos are about. Now, I will be doing some more. If there are subjects that you want to know about, just get in touch. Thanks a lot.